Batman fans know that the Dark Knight Returns story by Frank Miller is one of the best Batman stories ever written, and since this year is the 30th anniversary of the Dark Knight Returns story, and Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice takes some inspiration from that story, there was literally no better time to talk about it. The Dark Knight Returns is a powerful and thought-provoking story that explores themes of aging, morality, and the nature of heroism. With its stunning artwork, complex characters, and gripping storyline, The Dark Knight Returns is arguably one of the greatest comics ever written. So, whether you've read this story 100 times or you've never read it, I'm about to break down the story for you. Before I talk about the actual Dark Knight Returns storyline, I'm going to give you a little bit of history of the actual series. It's a 4-issue comic book miniseries that debuted in 1986. It is written and drawn by Frank Miller, with Klaus Janson as the anchor and Lynn Varley as the colorist. When this series was later collected into a single volume, the story title for the issue was applied to the entire series, hence the entire story being called Batman: The Dark Knight Returns. For those of you curious of what the other 3 issues are called, issue 2 is called Batman: The Dark Knight Triumphant, issue 3 is called Batman: Hunt for the Dark Knight, and issue 4 is called Batman: The Dark Knight Falls. But again, when referring to the whole story, it's just called Batman: The Dark Knight Returns. This series tells an alternate story of Bruce Wayne, who, at 55 years old, returns from retirement to fight crime and faces opposition from the Gotham City police force and the United States government. The story also introduces Carrie Kelly as the new Robin, but probably the most notable aspect of this story is at the end, when Batman fights Superman in his armored batsuit, which, as we all know, is where Batman v Superman pulled its inspiration. A 3-issue sequel series, also written and drawn by Frank Miller, The Dark Knight Strikes Again, was published in 2001. And more recently, we have the 3rd installment, The Dark Knight 3, The Master Race, which is co-written by Miller and Brian Azzarello, and is drawn by Andy Kubert. Lastly, a 64 prestige format one-shot co-written by Miller and Azzarello is titled The Dark Knight Returns: The Last Crusade. Now, that's my brief 101, or whatever you want to call it, on The Dark Knight Returns. So now, let's talk about what happens in the actual story. The Dark Knight Returns is set 10 years in an alternate future, with a worn and wary-aged Bruce Wayne, which again is much like Batman v Superman's take on Bruce. At this point in time, Bruce is in his mid-50s and has retired from being Batman for several years. Now levels of crime were rising in Gotham, and Bruce has a breakthrough and finds that retirement is against his instincts. So he becomes Batman once again, donning the cape and cowl. He first confronts Harvey Dent, who's holding the city ransom with a bomb. Dent was thought to be cured after plastic surgery to fix his face, which Wayne financed. But when Batman defeats Dent, he realizes that despite his repaired appearance, Dent's mind is now entirely Two-Face. But before everything went down with Dent, Batman saves a 13-year-old girl named Carrie Kelly from an attack by a gang called the Mutants. Flash forward a bit, Kelly buys herself an imitation Robin costume and searches for Batman, wanting to help him. She finds Batman at the city dump, where he fights an army of mutants, though Batman defeats them with his beast of a Batmobile. The mutants then span and rename themselves the Sons of Batman. Batman is now seen as a menace to Gotham society, and an anti-vigilante wave is being led by the government. Even Commissioner Gordon became a victim of both criminals and government after he killed a teenager in self-defense. Gordon is replaced by Ellen Yindel, a well-known anti-vigilante cop. Batman then finds out how the mutants gain their power in high-tech weaponry, discovering a net of corruption inside the US Army. Now, like all good stories, there are a bunch of awesome subplots, and this comic definitely has some awesome ones. During the time Batman was gone, the Joker entered a catatonic state, being unable to find something to live for. After Batman's reappearance, the Joker woke up and convinced his doctor that he had been rehabilitated. When his doctor takes the Joker to a talk show, he begins a killing spree, releasing his Joker venom to the entire audience, as well as killing his doctor. Batman appears to stop him, however, the Joker escapes due to the fact that Batman had to struggle with the police. Batman and Robin begin to search for the Joker after he killed a group of Boy Scouts, and Robin avoids more deaths after the Joker planted a bomb on a roller coaster. Long story short, Batman paralyzes the Joker and faces the dilemma of whether or not he should kill him. The Joker laughs and calls Batman a coward. He then snaps his own freaking neck to blame Batman for his death.
See you in hell.
That's definitely one way to end a relationship. But now, of course, I have to talk about the part of the story everyone wants to know about. Dude, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. And that would be Superman coming into the picture and eventually fighting Batman. Superman is called by the US government to stop Batman after he returns from a mission in South America. Meanwhile, a lethal group known as the Sons of Batman have been using deadly methods against criminals. Batman rallies the Sons of Batman and tells them that guns are weapons of the enemy, and that they don't need them, and they won't use them. He goes on to say,
"Our weapons are precise and quiet. In time I will teach them to you, but for tonight you will rely on your brains and your fists."
Basically, Batman's a BAM. During this time, Oliver Queen, formerly known as the Green Arrow, warns Bruce about Superman and the government's plans. Batman eventually faces off with Superman, and after trading several blows, Bruce seemingly gains the upper hand thanks to his prior preparation and Oliver's kryptonite arrow. With Superman knocked out by the effects of kryptonite, Bruce lays down one of the most awesome and famous monologues in comic book history, the "one man who beat you" speech, which goes as follows.
"I want you to remember that. I wanted to remind you to stay out of my way. In all the years to come, in your most private moments, I want you to remember the one man who beat you."
After that, he tricks Superman into believing he suffered a heart attack in order to be able to escape the government. Clark knows the Bruce's funeral, where he hears a heartbeat inside the coffin and winks at Carrie Kelly. He then realizes that Wayne faked his death. After this, Bruce begins his new life with his quote-unquote army. And just like that, you have the summary of the Dark Knight Returns story. Obviously, I left out some elements of the comic, but I tried to hit all the main beats. Either way, if you haven't read the comic, you should get the full effect of the story. It's hands down one of the best Batman stories ever told. So, what did you guys think of the plot of The Dark Knight Returns? What comics would you like us to cover next? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're at it, subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and as always, thanks for watching.